It looks like potentially the conflict in Gaza is coming to a conclusion. Hopefully that's so. And it's time to start thinking about rebuilding Gaza. It's going to be decades. It's going to be very, very expensive. It's going to require the world community to contribute. One would suspect the United States will contribute either directly or through the UN. Hopefully, the Arab countries should contribute, and they very well should. As I've talked about a number of times, including in my last video, the Arab countries are really in great part responsible, the surrounding Arab countries, for the conflict in Gaza, for creating a Palestinian people to use as a foil against Israel after Israel's creation in 1948, and later when the quote-unquote Palestinians were displaced in the 1967 war. And so they should really be at the table to discuss this. The UN has fomented a lot of the conflict by facilitating the Hamas, supporting Hamas through back channels in Gaza. They have contributed to the indoctrination of young children in Gaza to hate Israel, where in Gaza the children are taught from a very young age to hate Jews and Israel, and in classes, and I've discussed this in the past, they in plays enact killing Jews. I'm sure there have to be good reasons for supporting the UN to this day, but I'm at a loss to understand them. I'd certainly like to be persuaded, or at least hear reasons for continuing to be in the end. But based on what I've seen, I would think the U.S. ought to withdraw from the UN. The UN has really been, it was formed as a Western-style democracy to decide matters of world care among participating nations, but what it turned into was really a democratic process to be hijacked by totalitarian and communist regimes to oppose Western and democratic interests. The U.S. has continually contributed disproportionately to the UN financially. It may be time to withdraw and the U.S.'s contribution to the reconstruction of Gaza be done directly or through some other organization. And hopefully the European nations will follow and contribute. Israel, I've talked about Israel and its concern for the world, tikkun olam, and the belief in Judaism that we ought to all contribute to the world and repair the world, make it a better place. I would expect that Israel would help with the rebuilding effort, but it's going to be, I would imagine, a very different place than before the conflict, before October 7th. One of the big gripes from Palestinians is that they have been subjected to abuse and unreasonable detentions and searches at the border checkpoints. And as I've talked about in the past, the way to eliminate those problems is to simply stop border crossing. There's no right to cross into another nation, to cross its borders. The October 7 massacre in Israel occurred in an area of largely great support for a two-state solution. These are people who politically and ideologically were the most receptive to a two-state solution and recognition of a Palestinian country. They've now seen a horrific result from their concerns for the Palestinians. The first duty of the government of a nation is to protect its people from foreign attack. So I think it's reasonable to expect that for the foreseeable future anyway, Israel may not allow workers from Gaza to come into Israel, and the border may continue to be very strongly patrolled to prevent any incursion, any crossing whatsoever. I've also explained in the past how Israel provides Gaza with electricity. I would suspect that Israel will do that for quite some time. But eventually, Gaza, if it is to be recognized as a sovereign nation, must become entirely independent and not depend on Israel for electricity or anything else. If relations through the decades, or at least through the next several years, develop where there is less acrimony and there is a recognition of Israel's right to exist and a desire to live in peace, then maybe the border can open up to exchange, both from a standpoint of commerce and workers crossing. And this gets to another issue, which is the need to reverse the decades of indoctrination of Palestinians in Gaza to hate Jews in Israel and to want to eradicate them. And this is a reason to not only eliminate the involvement of the United Nations, but as part of the effort of Reconstruction to facilitate better understanding and education to reverse these years of anti-Semitic, anti-Israel indoctrination of the Palestinian children.